I welcome you all on behalf of Chandigarh Literary Society CLS and Rivers Publication to the book launch of Mrs. Narinder Jit Kaur's collection of short stories, The Icicle. I extend a very warm welcome to our chief guest, Dr. Sumita Mishra, Chairperson CLS, and our guests of honor, Mr. Ramesh Vinayak and Mr. Afan SV, and a special guest, Dr. S.P. Singh. A big round of applause to our distinguished guests, please. Thank you. Our author, Narendraji, would like to honor the guests with a bouquet. Can we have the bouquets, please? Mr. Ramesh Vinayak, sir. Mr. Afan SV. And the special guest, Dr. S.P. Singh. And by the way, Dr. S.P. Singh, for those who don't know, is Mrs. Narinder Jit Kaur's husband. Mrs. Narinder Jit Kaur is a retired associate professor of English with a remarkable career spanning 31 years in various government colleges across Punjab. She's a prolific trilingual writer, demonstrating her versatility in English, Hindi, and Punjabi. Her literary contributions encompass articles, stories, and poems which consistently grace the pages of prestigious publications such as the Hindustan Times, the Tribune, and various print and online media magazines. She has carved out a distinctive niche for herself in the field of translation, with a translated work from Punjabi to English finding place in the curriculum of esteemed academic institutions, serving as resource for research papers, and even finding a place of honor in the Library of the Parliament. Her previous work, Dawn to Dusk, is a collection of 58 middle articles published in prominent English dailies, and that has been well received by readers and critics alike. The book in hand, The Icicles, is her 7th book, and it marks her foray into the realm of creative writing, which will definitely add a fresh perspective to the literary landscape. In her writing career, Narinder Jit Kaur draws inspiration from her husband, Dr. S.P. Singh, a retired university professor in human biology, renowned for his impressive portfolio of 10 academic books. The unwavering support of her 2 sons, Rajdeep Singh, who is in the US, and Hardeep Singh, who is in Canada, both software engineers, has been a constant source of encouragement throughout her literary journey. The Icicle is a collection of short stories which explore the depths of human existence, delving deep into the turbulent journey of people tormented by self-doubt, insecurities, and guilt. These narratives unravel the complexities of the human psyche and reveal the intense longing for validation and acceptance. The stories depict the essence of the Indian social milieu and focus on crucial life-changing moments, moments of realization, resolution, and redemption. Taking inspiration from great story writers like Kushwant Singh and Gulzar, Narinder Ji has used simple language, lucid prose, and vivid storytelling techniques to weave a captivating collection of human stories with intense storylines. The titular story, The Icicle, is the story of one single moment, one singular inadvertent action, a moment that has frozen into an icicle and holds the protagonist prisoner, encased in an icicle. I know you would be eager to know what happens in that moment. And there are other stories which will not only melt the icicles, but warm the cockles of your heart. I don't want to keep you waiting to get the first glimpse of the book. And to do the honors of unveiling the book, I would like to invite, first of all, the author of the book, Mrs. Narinder Jit Kaur, her husband, Dr. S.P. Singh, the publisher of the book, Mr. Afan Yasvi, guest of honor, Mr. Ramesh Vinayak, and our chief guest, Dr. Sumita Mishra. Can we have a big round of applause for this beautiful book? Ma'am, our heartiest congratulations to you. Cover of the book with a cool sky blue color and frozen icicles has piqued our interest. So let's find out more about the book from the author herself. Narinder Jit Kaur, ma'am. In conversation with her is Dr. Sonika Sethi, who's an associate professor of English in SD College, Ambala Kent, and who also writes articles for various newspapers.
Indeed, a pleasure as well as honor that I have been asked to be in conversation with Madam Narinder Jit Kaur. Madam Narinder Jit Kaur, as we all know her, is probably the sweetest person around, the most soft-spoken amongst us. That is at least how we know her. What Mr. S.P. Singh has to say, we'll talk about it later. And we know her mostly through her writings. We have been reading her articles time and again, mostly in the Spice of Life column of Hindustan Times. And as Ramesh Vinayak sir would agree with me, that most of her writings, we always wonder whether she writes prosaic poetry or poetic prose. Such is the rhythm in her writing, such is the flow of her writing. And one thing I always admire about her writing is she never raises questions until she has the resolution to present. She resolves all the doubts that she herself raises through her write-ups. That is the amazing part of a writer, which very few of us do. We do raise questions, we do raise doubts, but hardly we ever think about giving a resolution to those queries. And she always comes up with these resolutions. To begin with, it's not that I am reading her stories for the first time, because when we started River's Beat, she contributed a story in the first issue of River's Beat, and would you believe it was a love story? A love story, love in the rain. That was the theme that time. And I was actually amazed if she can be so romantic at heart. Sir, to pata si?
You didn't expect me to write a romantic story.
I didn't actually. And then we read her poetry also. It's like a divine flow. Now she has come up with her collection of short stories. And believe you me that these are on a very different level, because she has poured her heart into each one of the stories. I would not tell you right in the beginning what is my favorite story, because I really don't want to cry right here. what I want to do is, first I want to read out a passage from the preface that she has written. She says, writing stories makes you very lonely as you live with shadows, the floating abstractions that gradually grow into concrete entities. They occupy a cozy corner in your mind, living and kicking like unborn babies, making you conscious of their presence all the time, ultimately becoming a part of you, your extension. That is what she believes writing stories does to you. I think she deserves a huge round of applause for that. Now, coming to what I want to know from you, ma'am, you have written 12 stories, and in the preface itself, you have said, and I quote you, that your stories depict the essence of the Indian social milieu, but focus on human instincts. Would you please elaborate this statement of yours for the sake of our audience?
Thank you so much, Sonika, for your kind words. And let me tell you that we all are storytellers. We may not be story writer, but we all are storytellers. Stories are a part of our life, and this creation of stories starts very early in our life. When a child for the first time tells his mother that I've got a stomach ache and I cannot go to school, the first story is born.
True.
And the child also knows the cause and effect element of the story, right? And this is an innate trait in human beings. And our imagination starts, it's set to work quite early in our life. And then the stories keep on adding. Some stories vanish after some time, some stays with us. And everybody can create stories, but not everybody can retell the stories. So it's few who have the talent, they write the stories. But writing stories, as I have mentioned in my preface also, but the thing is that when you have stories in your mind, they capture your mind, they stay in your mind, and then they keep on pricking you. They keep on disturbing you. I had read somewhere, I think it was ascribed to Manto perhaps, कि कहानियाँ बहुत ज़िद्दी होती हैं. ये जब एक बार आपके दिमाग में आ जाती हैं तो ऐसी चिपकती हैं कि फिर आपको छोड़ने का नाम नहीं लेती हैं. और कुछ तो इतनी ढीठ होती हैं कि वो आपके सामने आके खड़ी हो जाती हैं कि सबसे पहले मुझे निपटाओ. So the stories are like this. Once you have some thought in your mind, it keeps on revising itself in your mind until and unless you put them in black and white. I come from a family of great storytellers. My mother, who is at this time 91 plus, she is mentally very alert. She's got an elephantine memory. And वो कहते हैं ना कि आवाज़ में अभी भी खनक है. And she can bring out anecdotes right from 1940s and 1950s with exact preciseness and great details. And my two sisters are here. My eldest sister, she's a master in mythology and Gurbani. She has a story for every context, every situation. My second sister, she's full of history. She can bring out historical facts which we have never known. And whenever we get together, so there is a long session of exchanging, anecdotes and stories. Now, these stories that you asked me about, short story has its own canvas. First of all, man is at the center of the universe. Alexander Pope says that the proper study of mankind is man. And all study of this universe centers around human beings. If you look at literature, so much of writings are there, so much of literature is there, and it's all about man. His life, his struggles, his happiness, his love. So how much variation can be in the stories? Perhaps one story differs from the other as to how it is perceived by the author and how it is presented by the author. So now these stories, they are about very simple human beings, very simple people, right from the lowest strata of society to a very high strata of life. Now, the canvas of my stories, it has a vast spatio-temporal ambit, right? Right from 1947 partition days, it goes to 9/11 attack in New York, and then it goes to COVID in 2021.
Definitely.
Right?
Huge canvas.
Then from a beggar girl to a, this daily wager, to a story writer and her entrepreneur husband, and then to the software engineers in US. So that canvas is there. But the thing is that all my characters, whatever their social status is, whatever their social background is, whatever happens in the story with them, it's not because of their social status. It is beyond that. Right? What I think is that, we human beings, the moment we are born, we start getting tags attached to us. The moment we are born, the family name is attached to us. And then as we grow up, your appearance, your education, your professional success, your wealth, your children, their success. And these tags, they become our identity. People recognize us because of all these things. But if you start removing these tags, one by one, all these layers, so जो सबसे बीच में रह जाता है, the pure human being, that is you. That is you, and that is, everyone is like that.
And you've very well presented the human aspect through all your stories.
So that is the human being that my stories address.
Yeah, that brings to my next question, ma'am. Coming to the eponymous story now, The Icicle. Two questions come to my mind. One is, what made you zero in on this title? Number two, the story is about a hardcore Naxalite woman. She has been trained so hard that under no circumstances would she ever divulge the details of her partners. And suddenly she caves into her emotions. Don't you think that is a paradoxical character? How would you justify her?
Like as I was saying, that basic human being, he has so many nightmares, so many complexes, so many fears, so many, you can say there is guilt, there is low self-esteem. So these are the things that these are our inner demons that we keep on fighting. And the society doesn't know about it because the society recognizes us with other tags, right? Now, this story, The Icicle, she is a terrorist. Now, what happens that day? She never knew that it will lead to that. It will lead to...
But I think she was prepared for every eventuality. How could she cave in at that one particular moment?
Terrorists are not born, right? Terrorists are made, and it's the circumstances that make them. But she is a woman, she is in love with that man, and whatever she does at that time, she does it just at the spur of the moment, never realizing that it will lead to what happens.
I think that is what I wanted to hear all the way long.
Yes.
So
that moment, when she does something that leads to the death of her husband, and then she is stuck into that moment. She has become a prisoner of that moment. That moment has frozen into an icicle. And now she is in prison for 5 years, solitary confinement. But she has not lived even a minute beyond that moment. She is all the time, what happened? What was in his eyes? Right? So that's why, and somewhere I feel that we all have our own icicle moments.
That's true.
The moments that impact our life, the moment that change our lives, the moment that shock us. So that's why I named the story as The Icicle, and because I think that everyone has such moments in life, I gave this title to the book.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you that once you start reading her stories, you'll not be able to put them down. It's an unput downable book, and I finished within 24 hours all the stories. Though I must confess that I hate short stories. They tickle you.
But she writes short
Yes,
stories.
I do. But the problem with short stories is they tickle you, they tease you while you're reading them, and the moment they they just end. They leave you wanting more. And they keep on hankering you days after you finish reading them. So I am in a love-hate relationship with all the stories. Coming back to your 12 stories, I would not say all, but most of your stories have female protagonists. And I teach in my class, I've been teaching feminism for the last 15 years. I tell them that a feminist is not a person who stands and chants slogans for equal rights and equal opportunities. A feminist is also a person. It could be a male, it could be a female. He or she is also a person who writes about the female issues, who talks about the female issues, who brings female characters to the fore. Most of your stories, they are a strong rebuttal to the statutes laid by the patriarchal society. Is that your idea of feminism? How do you draw your strength as a feminist? And here I would also like you to comment or tell us if there are any real life women who have left an impact on you.
First of all, your first question that most of my protagonists, they are females. Now, if women will not write about women, I think men will not. Right? Now, the most important story here that I would mention is Who Killed Me? Right?
The partition story.
The partition story. The women are killed. There are lines in my story that it's so sad and ironic.
Would you like to read them
No,
in the
no,
passage?
I'll just read one line.
Okay.
That it's so sad and ironic that while men are killed outside in the streets, women are killed within the four walls of their houses, their homes rather. While men were killed by their adversaries, women were killed by their own brothers and fathers. Right? Now, in this story, there are two families, Muslim family and Sikh family, and because that is a Sikha Mohalla, Sikhs are in majority, and the Muslim family finds itself in a very vulnerable situation. And then there is an attack on the Muslim household, and they kill their sister. And now the Sikh family has also has a girl. They were friends. Then she comes to know that even before moving to Amritsar, her own family is planning to discard her. Right? Now she raises her voice that how can they do it? We have not done anything. Why they are dragging us into these sordid fights?
So, because they are a subject of honor.
Yes.
You can barter them for honor, you can kill them for honor.
And the word honor, it's a very digressive term here. If woman is the honor of the family, she is not honored. Right? This word is a burden. This is a cross that she's carrying on her shoulders, because she knows that if there's anything goes wrong between her family men and some other men, she will be the target. She will be kidnapped, she will be raped, and she will be killed. If I can say this, that for centuries, women has been used now this term, she has been used as a tool for retribution. Men take revenge upon each other by humiliating their women.
Yes.
Right. I tell you one thing, that among the Pathans of southern Afghanistan and some parts of Balochistan and KPK, where the Pathans are concentrated, there is a tradition that is called Vani tradition, V-A-N-I. And Pathans are very fierce community. So if one man is murdered by some other, his adversary, then they have their local panchayat called Jirga. And the Sardar, so the case comes, and there's a provision that if the killer agrees to give a minor girl from his family into the family of the killer, his life will be spared. And the girl has to be the minor one. If there are 3 daughters or 3 sisters, the youngest will go. She will be sort of married to either the brother or the father of the killed man. And she becomes the Vani. She goes as a Vani. And then whole of her life she is sexually abused and physically tortured, and she leads a life of a slave. But does the man feel that he is being punished? I don't think so. They don't have any regret for that. They don't have any remorse. He doesn't feel punished, right? You know, in the typical Pathani language, Amara bachi, हमने कुर्बान किया. So she is कुर्बान की जाती है, and their enmity doesn't come to an end. It continues. So this is how women is treated, and this is the meaning of honor. Now, any women that have impacted me. You know, सोनिया, यहाँ पे like मुझे थोड़ा सा ये लगता है कि मैंने पीछे एक Women's Day पे आर्टिकल भी लिखा था कि that it's not everybody cannot be Kalpana Chawla. I cannot become Kiran Bedi. Right? They do whatever they do in the place they are placed.
Definitely.
Right? So wherever you are, whatever you are doing, you have to see that you can uplift women, you can help them out. If you are a teacher, how you impact the life and thinking of your students. How can you help your domestic help, right? So first of all, I'll say that my mother, she saw to it, and you know, we were first generation after independence. And she wanted that her daughters should get education. And I remember that wherever I went for interview, she would go with me. She saw to it. And I think that our generation is the one who prepared the ground for our further generations of women, right? To get education, to come into jobs and get empowerment. So I'll say that my mother has impacted my life most.
That brings me to an interesting fact, which I would like to share with the audience. Interestingly, Madam Narinder Jit Kaur and I, we both are teachers. And one of our teachers who has cast such a deep impression on both of us, Dr. Kumkum Bajaj, she is amongst us today, sitting in the audience. We owe her a huge deal for being here today.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am, for coming all the way from Patiala. We are really honored to have you here, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am Kumkum Bajaj, I was her student in BA second year in Government College for Women. I think today now it's Government College for Girls, but at that time, so I was her student in 1970-71. And by chance we met in Patiala, so we are connected now. Right.
And I will share my relation later on. Will not take much time. So, ma'am, coming to another story, every author who writes an autobiographical or a semi-autobiographical story has to somehow relive or experience the trauma that they had undergone at some point of time. Your story, those 4 days, wo 4 din, agar literal translation kiya jaye, it has an undercurrent of being an autobiographical story.
You know, like, the story is about a nameless woman lying in the ICU of makeshift COVID ward in the Langar Hall of a Gurdwara. And she is there for 4 days, and whatever is going on in her mind, she is fluctuating between hope and despair, right? Now, I think it's not my experience only, it's universal experience. We all went through a difficult time during COVID. And let me tell you that we didn't get to COVID. Both
Yes.
of us, we had maybe a very, mild fever for 1 day. So, but the thoughts were nightmarish. What will happen? Because, both my sons are abroad. So we are both here. And this agony that I have described is the agony of all those senior people who are living all alone. Now, my problem was that I don't know driving. Right? And all the time, the thought in my mind was, if he gets COVID, what will I do? And according to those situations, people will not come to help you because everybody is scared for his own life, right? And then there were so many cases of your friends, of your known people, how they suffered and how they died and how their bodies were zipped into plastic bags and taken away. So thinking that, I try to visualize myself in that position, in that condition, that if this happens to me, what would be my thoughts? So the story is, it has an autobiographical touch, but it is all my imagination. Though I have added certain things which had actually happened, some naughty things that I have added. मैंने एक photo निकाल के रखी, and I told my husband कि जब मेरा भोग होगा ना तो ये वाली photo. So that is true. That is true.
So, have you already written a self-obituary also?
So many times. Did you? So many times. So that is universal experience that I have.
I agree. I am reminded of Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina and the opening lines of Anna Karenina. All happy families are alike. Every unhappy family is unique in its own way.
Yeah.
So if I create a Venn diagram vis-a-vis the creative writers, the overlapping aspects would be the ultimate result of a creative writer's product. Holding the book in hand, smelling the book, leafing through the pages, the ecstasy that one feels when one holds the book in one's hand. These are the overlapping features of the Venn diagram of every creative writer. But then there are those experiences, challenges, which are diverse for every author. Would you like to share those experiences and the challenges that bogged you down during the process of creation of this book, these stories?
These stories, as I said, that they stayed with me for many years, particularly that now 1947. I read a story when I was, I think, in the first year of college or maybe pre-university. So it was a story of a sick old man with long beard. And while traveling in the train from Pakistan to Amritsar, so he said that with this sword, I killed my wife and my daughter-in-law. And then the storyteller saying that there was a sparkle in his eyes. And he was telling it with such pride. Now that story stayed in my mind. I got angry at that time when I read that story. And it stayed in my mind and it kept pricking me. So maybe after 40 years I have written this story. Then there, all my stories. Some of the characters I have met in my life. Some of the incidents have actually taken place. Some I have heard, some I have read. So the trigger has always been there. And while writing one story, you get trigger of another story, and then you don't know whether you should finish the first one and start the second one, or like that. Now, my stories, they are very realistic stories. I have not added anything mystical, mysterious, exotic, romantic,
Miraculous.
miraculous, nothing.
Not even romance.
Not even romance. She knows it.
I insist on romance.
And that's why she was surprised when I wrote a romantic story that she could write.
See, now you realize my wonder.
So when you are writing a realistic story, you have to see it that everything goes in a very logical progression. There shouldn't be anything that raises a question, how can that be possible? Right? And particularly the difficulty comes if you are writing a period story. On the 1947 riots, and then 9/11 attack in New York, and then COVID, right? So you have to be very particular. You have to keep in mind what the mindset of people was at that time, and you
to the period.
Yes, you cannot go beyond that, right? So these are the things that I had to keep in mind. So otherwise, yes, every story has its own structure. Every story has its own compulsions. Once you decide from where you have to start and where you end, then the story makes its own, path. So there had been some things that, if you talk about this, how I have structured my stories. Now that partition story, I have raised feminine voice in this story, which is almost missing from the whole of partition narrative that is available to us. There are stories about what happened to women, right? But nobody talks of, the woman voice is not there. I'm reminded of, Manto's story, Kholdo. In that story, the girl doesn't have a voice. The girl doesn't have a voice. And if a writer like Manto is writing, so take it as a metaphor that the woman voice was not there. Women anger was not there. So I have tried to bring out that anger. Although I have been very particular, if you have read the story, the conversation takes place only with the mother. She hasn't confronted her brothers.
Not at all.
Not at all, right?
Not even her father.
Not even the father. So I was very particular. And then I have left the story open-ended. I didn't give the last statement what happens. She kills herself or the brother killed her. So that I have left for the audience or the readers to decide. So that was very important for me to do. Right? Then there are certain things that you have to create. Now, this story, those 4 days, the whole story is an interior monologue.
Those 4 days, yes.
The whole story is, and it's not a story in the traditional sense of the term. It doesn't have a beginning and a middle and an end. Right? Then I have 2 of my protagonists, they are anti-hero. Priya is anti-hero. Deepak is anti-hero. Right? And then there are, if you look at the language of the stories, that story, the Epiphany.
Epiphany, yes.
Epiphany, the first sentence is that Jagira's father is trying to wake him up. That, come on, we have to go to work, and he says, "Maine nahi jana." Right? In the end, the last sentence is that it's Jagira who is trying to wake up his father. Yes. Come on, let's go. We are getting late.
Sort of anti-climax to the story.
Anti-climax, or this is the story arc and the character arc that I have taken.
And it's a very sweet story. You'll fall in love with the protagonist. So please go home and read the story of Jagira.
And then the first sentence of the story, which is the breadwinner.
Oh, don't make me start.
The first sentence of the story is, today Baba actually died. And the word actually is put in italics.
No, in fact, I think we are getting late, ma'am.
Yes.
But I would still ask you this question, because this happens to be my favorite story, The Breadwinner. I would request the audience to please go home, sit down in a quiet corner, and do read this story. Don't start reading it right here. Go home, find a secluded corner, read the story of an 8-year-old beggar girl. कमली उसका नाम है, 8 साल की है, 2 साल के अपने भाई को वो गोद में उठाकर जगह जगह भीख मांगती है. And the words she utters every day is, बाबा मर गए, कोई कफन के पैसे दे दो. The girl doesn't even know the meaning of the word kafan.
But
And
she
believe
has,
me,
she has been trained by the mother.
yes,
to
this
go.
is not the end of the story. This is not the climax. I really don't want to divulge the climax. But by the end I finished the story, I had goosebumps. I could not stop crying. It is a full of pathos story. I don't know how did she come up with this idea.
No, I have cried with my characters. I have cried for my characters. You know, it's not easy to write this way.
I can actually stand beside you because I have also cried for this character. I remember reading Nadine Gordimer, the South African writer. She was once asked by a publisher that every author in his or her lifetime must write a story about or for children. I would not tell you what was her response, but she ultimately ended up writing a story which is her most popular story, Once Upon a Time. So perhaps this is your story about children and for the children. Would you like to tell us something about Kamli's character? How did you conjure that character? How did you come up with it? And that will be the last question. I will not delay any further.
I have tried to talk about those people about whom very few people write. I have taken up a daily wager who has high dreams. I have taken up the story of this girl because when you see in the market, on the chalk, that small children are made to beg, right? And their mothers, they treat them. They train them that ye bolna, ye bolna, ye bolna, right? So there are so many contradictions that go in the mind of that girl when today Baba actually died, and she's not able to understand कि पहले क्या होता था, वो तो रोज मरते थे, तो आज क्या हो गया? So she is not able to understand this situation, and then the social norms, and then she doesn't understand the behavior of the mother.
Let's not go into the story.
Right? So, but her mind is in turmoil. But then as even as a small child, she tries her own conclusion in the end. That no, my Baba was not good for nothing man. It was in his name that I was begging money and I was earning money. He was the breadwinner of the family. So that is the story.
I can go on and on and on and on discussing every story with you threadbare, but time is of importance here, so we'll wind up our discussion right here. And I would request Rita to carry on with the further proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Such a beautiful insight into the book. Fan Yesvi, the publisher of the book, The Icicle, to say a few words. He's the founder-director of Rivers Publishing Group and editor-in-chief of the English literary magazine Rivers Beat, Punjabi magazine Love's Nama, and Hindi magazine Abhas. Mr. Afan Yesvi.
Thank you very much. Salam, adab. Thank you all for coming here today for this wonderful book launch. My greetings to Madam Sumita Mishra ji for always supporting us and our authors. Thank you, ma'am, for collaborating through Chandigarh Literary Society for this lovely book. Also, my gratitude to Sir, Mr. Ramesh Vinayak ji, for his presence here. The book is very special to our publishing house also because it has around 12 stories and they are very interesting stories. When ma'am sent me the script, we usually have a software that plays because I don't have the patience to read. तो वो चला जाता है, तो जब वो सुन रहा था मैं तो बस एहसास हुआ कि oh wow, what a mind, how simple she looks, but the characters which she has come out with, that's amazing. And instantly I said, ma'am, ठीक है, publish कर देते हैं, and that too through our main print line, otherwise this print line is exclusively reserved for only few people. We are very happy to come out with this book. These are 12 stories. I hope you all will enjoy these stories. Plus, after maybe few months, we will also try to do a podcast or a storybook of these stories, because I really want that more and more people should read these stories. Currently, the trend is, yes, few people may buy the book. We'll also hopefully keep the book on Kindle. But there is a trend of podcast, and through maybe Spotify or Google Podcast, we can just keep the stories there and many people can hear it there. These stories have a lot of emotions, and I'm sure you all will enjoy it. Thank you.
Now I'll invite the guest of honor, Mr. Ramesh Vinayak, to address the audience. He's the executive editor of the Hindustan Times and was earlier associated with India Today magazine and the Tribune. He writes extensively on a range of issues and has been honored for his outstanding coverage of the Kargil War and the excellence in farm journalism.
Very Honorable Dr. Sumita Mishra ma'am, Madam Narinder Jit Kaur ji, and I think, I am amidst my own family, I am, with my contributors, people who write for Hindustan Times, and I am incredibly proud of them, that, we meet now so often and we relate to each other. Other day when Ma'am Narinder Jit Kaur ji sent a message that, I have a book release, can you please come over? So I immediately said that, how can I say no? I would surely be there. It will, my privilege, to be at your book launch. And before we met in person for the first time, ma'am used to write for us. He still writes for us. And, you try and conjure up image of your writer based on his or her writing. And so the image that came to my mind was of a very genial grandmother, who has, a portly of, a repertoire of, experiences, and she is picking out of that portly and, narrating those stories for a larger audience. And like a rainbow, she has, a very wide spectrum of emotions, to write about, and I find her writings very interesting. She has a, gift for storytelling, which is central to, being a good writer, and so I really appreciate that, ma'am. When Sonika ma'am was talking to you, she was, referring to a story about partition you wrote, Who Killed Me, and that really kind of touched my heart. I immediately started reading the story. I couldn't read it, and but it also struck a bell, in my own mind. I remember I used to work for India Today magazine. It was 1997, 50th year of independence or partition, and I remember I met Reshma, the famous Pakistani singer. She was in Chandigarh to perform in some program. I went to meet her. She was staying with some Punjab minister. So when I was sitting with her, talking to her, there was a lady sitting next to her who was very silently sobbing, crying. So I couldn't resist, asking Reshma ji, why is the lady crying? In a typical Punjabi sarge, tu gal chhade di, edi kahani, bhorela kahani edi. So I said, ki kahani hai? Then she said, ki basically ta Sikhan di kudi hai, lekin hun Musalman hai. During partition, when she was just 6 months old, she got separated from the family in Sargodha when, riots were happening. And she was brought up by a Christian nurse, in Multan, and before she died, her foster mother, she told her that you are a daughter of a Sikh family, and then she married her to a Muslim gentleman. But that girl always thought that I must locate my parents. where are my parents, And she kept searching, all the jathas go to Pakistan, people inquire from them. That was the age when social media, internet was not there. And gradually she figured out that her family is, her mother survived. She is at a place near Pehova, Kurukshetra district, that people from that area were settled in Kurukshetra area. And she could get in touch with her mother, through letter. And then she was not getting visa because India-Pakistan relationship always very tense. So Reshma made her part of her cultural delegation to get her visa. And she said that she's crying because today is our last day. She wrote a letter to her mother that मैं चंडीगढ़ आ रही है मैंने आके मिलो इत्थे. And last day they haven't come. So she's crying कि मेरा तो ट्रिप पे बेकार गया मैं तो अपनी माँ नू मिलना सी 50 साल बाद. It was such a heart-rending story. And it was a year of partition that gave me an idea that we should look at such split families. Half family Muslim, half family Sikh, half family Hindu, half family Muslim in Pakistan. And to cut the long story short, we wrote a big feature. We sent our team to Pakistan. I traveled, lots of area in this part of India to find her family. The upshot was that, we found a lady, 74-year-old lady in Rajpura, near Patiala, who's Hindu lady and whose brother had got separated. He was just 9-year-old. And he, then converted to Islam, became a Muslim. From Rajkumar, he became Kalimullah, something like that. So then I got in touch with, his family. In Pakistan, that we have found your sister here, would you like to meet them? So the old man said yes. He was a tailor in Pakistan. So I spoke to his son, can you bring your Abba to Wagah border? He said उनके पास तो passport नहीं है. नहीं आप आओ वहाँ पर हम आपकी बुआ को यहाँ से लेके जाएंगे. I spoke to BSF and Pakistani Rangers. After 50 years, brother sister met on Pakistan border. They embraced. They just froze. They just couldn't speak anything. So what I mean to say is that if you're observant, if you're curious, stories come to you naturally, and that is really gift with you, ma'am. You are so observant. You can turn very ordinary into extraordinary by your a great gift of writing, and I really appreciate. More power to your pen, and thank you very much. I really feel related because we have been part of your creative journey. Hindustan Times has small role in kind of giving space to young and all new crop of writers from different age groups. And I am also proud of having Colonel R.D. Singh from Ambala. He always writes fascinating pieces about his village life, his life in the army, and his daughter also occasionally contributes for us. So Hindustan Times is, part of you, and you are part of Hindustan Times. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be here at your book launch, and I really wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramesh. Hello. Yeah. Now I'll request our chief guest, Dr. Sumita Mishra, who is currently holding the charge of ACS, Medical Education and Research, and Food Supplies and Consumer Affairs Department, Haryana, to grace the stage and say a few words. She's the founder chairperson of Chandigarh Literary Society, CLS, and the festival director of Literati, the Chandigarh Literature Festival. Not only is she an accomplished poet with best-selling books to her credit, but she's also a torchbearer for promoting the literary arts in the city and endeavors to provide a platform to talented writers and thinkers. Dr. Sumita Mishra.
Narinder Jit ji, the star of the day, Ramesh Vinayak ji, Afan, all my dear friends who are members of CLS, and ladies and gentlemen. ये mic clear है? Okay. It's a pleasure to be here today. And at the outset, I'd like to congratulate Narinder Jit ji, who's got other works of translation, but this is her first creative enterprise. This is the first book that she has written, which is entirely from her own imagination, creativity, her literary debut, so to speak. So I congratulate her for that, and I wish her many more such moments, many more such laurels, and I hope the book does very well. I really enjoyed the conversation that Sonika and you had, and which I think gave all of us a little sort of a teaser into some of the stories in the book, and what were the thoughts or the different strands of society, of social reality, of the struggles that each one of us might face, irrespective of economic class, the struggles cutting across class, whether it's a well-off woman or it's that beggar child. And, bringing, I mean, what impressed me greatly is that, firstly, I mean, as a debut book to take up a canvas so large is something which is both challenging and therefore laudable. Well, in my mind, starting with a book of short stories is challenging enough because I personally think short stories are very difficult to write. They need that little twist or kick at the end. And then even as a reader at times, I feel that I wasn't satisfied with the ending. Some short stories leave you like kya point tha? Like agar humne, matlab, if you're going to leave it hanging like that, then why? So it's a difficult genre, I must say. And I'm looking forward to reading the book. I will start with the breadwinner since it has been so highly recommended. And coming to the other parts of today, I totally agree. I think we should make Ramesh Vinayak ji some kind of honorary member of CLS because we seem to be doing events together all the time. And I, as chairperson of CLS and in my personal capacity, I do want to really say it's very laudable the amount of the amount of space, the platform that the HT has been giving to such a cross section of authors. I mean, I know so many CLS members who regularly share articles that are being published in the HT, and I think that is a great confidence builder. I mean, the whole journey or the whole idea of what we do in CLS is exactly that. To give that space, that platform, that validation, that sense of achievement to new writing. And I really think that what you are doing with the HT in town has been great. And of course, maybe you should consider writing too, that although you have written about it, that the kissa that you just shared with us, maybe it's time to circulate it back on social media so that many more of us can read it, because you were mentioning that perhaps you wrote it in 1997. So I'm sure you would be having it in your archives somewhere, and many of us would like to read it. Again, I would also like to praise Afan, another big supporter of new writing. I think he's sort of the go-to person for everyone who is thinking of making, starting out on this journey of publishing, and it's good to have publishers who are willing to take the risks with new authors, new poets, new genres, as well as launch literary magazines it's yourself. So kudos to you for that. Once again, I'd like to congratulate Narinder Jit ji, and as I said, I'm looking forward to reading the book, and let's hope we keep meeting as frequently as we have in the last 3-4 days. And in any case, now we're in the thick of the run-up to Literati, the Chandigarh Literary Societies and Chandigarh's annual Lit Fest. We've just announced the dates, 24th, 25th and 26th November. So it's not too far off, and it's post-Diwali, and we hope the weather will be great. So hoping to bring a really, really exciting array of authors and performers, and literary genres, new things. We're definitely looking at bringing some new elements which have not really been part of literati early. Every year we try to do something different. So with that, I wish you again, once again, all the very best. Thank you.
And now, the author of the day, Mrs. Narinder Jit Kaur, would like to give the vote of thanks.
Good evening once again. I stand here with an immense feeling of gratitude and my heart full of humility. I had never thought that the event would go so beautifully, and for that, I would like to thank everyone who is here, who has graced this occasion. First of all, I would like to thank Ma'am Sumita Mishra, Chairperson, Chandigarh Literary Society, and Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Haryana. Ma'am Sumita Mishra has changed the color of Chandigarh Literary Society. Leading from the front, she can organize things in a jiffy. You know, I remember that in the group that we have, there was some talk of chai and coffee, and then people started writing a few lines, and then there and then it was decided that let's have a session on tea and coffee, and it was organized. And she not only organizes things, but she comes up with her own contribution, she comes up with her own poetry, and she encourages others like this. And I'm so happy and so grateful to ma'am for having accepted my invitation and graced this occasion. Mr. Ramesh Vinayak, I'll call him, Amsiha, for new writers, young writers, upcoming writers, hesitant writers like me, whom he has encouraged and polished into seasoned writers. I know that these days, because of my stories, I have taken a break from Spice of Life, but I'll be resuming that journey again. And the confidence that acceptance and publication of my articles has given to me, that had been a stepping stone to writing the stories. And thank you so much, sir, for coming here and giving me your blessings. The dapper Afan Yesri, right? He is a young man, I must say, that for whom even the sky is not the limit. He has so many projects in hand. The magazines, English and Hindi and Punjabi, and then publishing house, then some podcast. And he is always ready to go ahead, go forward. During all the conversations that I had with him, कि यहाँ से ये correction हो गया, आगे बोलो, अच्छा ये करना है, चलो हो गया, आगे बोलो, आगे बोलो. So he's always trying to, ठीक है, और करो. So thank you so much, Afan. Thank you so much for publishing the book. Thank you so much for gracing this occasion. And thank you so much for organizing this event so perfectly. I'm so grateful to you. I would like to thank all the audience here. Some senior people are here. My senior friends are here. Colonel R.D. Singh is here. Mr. Vinod Khanna is here. And my friends from CLS family. So they have, I'm obliged to them for making it here. My friends, my own colleagues from my college days, most of them, they are here. I would like to thank all of them. My student is here. My teacher, Kumkum Bajaj, is here. My colleague from Patiala, Professor Swaraj Raj, he writes for Hindustan Times also. He is here. So I would like to thank each and every one of you. And then I would like to thank the media who are here to cover the event. I would like to thank the Chandigarh Press Club who have helped and given their cooperation to organize this event. Thank you so much, everyone. It's my pleasure. And I hope that maybe I have another book and then I will meet you again like this. And in the end, I would like to request everyone to join us for a cup of tea. Thank you so much.
A big thank you to all of you present here today. Like the author has said, please join us for tea, and don't forget to pick up your copy of the book, The Icicle. The author is here to interact with you and get a signed copy. Today, it's there, your chance to get it. Thank you. Please join us for tea.